Hi everyone and welcome. So many of you know that I do astrology readings, and in one particular reading recently somebody asked for me to go in depth about past lives. I was so glad he asked about this because actually the concept of past lives was what brought me to astrology in the first place. And one reason why I feel like it's so fundamental, because as you'll watch with my North Node videos, I really key into this as the most pivotal part of astrology, my favorite guiding star, the North Star. So are past lives real? Why can't I remember my past life? Why do they matter? All of these questions have to deal with perspective. The reason past lives matter is because the longer that we can look at a stream of consciousness and the journey of that consciousness, the more perspective we can gain. It's a profound thing to take control of your life and find out that you really are in the driver's seat. When you look at all of these lives on a string, or when you look at it as the arrow in the astrolabe, what you find is that it's not somebody that did something to you. It's not a parent that neglected you, which is why you are who you are. For millions of years, possibly billions of years, your consciousness is attracted to certain concepts, a magnetic attraction, like attracts like. This attraction is all in a quest to find answers. All of our experiences are for us to gain wisdom. All of the pain that we experience is for the purpose of inner beauty and love. This process, I know it might sound rudimentary, but it's similar to working out. You work a muscle, there's pain, and then there's growth. You can't have the growth without the pain. That is why as much as I can tell you about what you should do with your life, or a friend can tell you, it's up to you to act on that and to feel what it feels like, because without experiencing it, knowledge never turns into wisdom. I'm sharing this video with you because for me, the idea of spiritual awakening was very much rooted in perspective. The two go hand in hand. And to have the largest amount of perspective, it wasn't enough for me to just act on instinct of repulsion and attraction based on childhood experiences and memories, but I wanted to go further than that. There was something much deeper than my parents or my teachers or anything that I would call Eliza. It was something beyond what Eliza was. It was before, and something that I could feel, but I couldn't actually put into words and pictures and images. Now, why is that? Well, because past lives are similar to those memories we have in the first 3 years of life. Psychologists will tell you that the first 3 years of life are more formative than any of the others. Now, if this is true, then why don't we usually remember anything from that time? And the reason why is it is so transformative. It is so painful and guttural, and yes, also euphoric and wonderful, full of pure emotion. Our own conscious mind and heart decided we had to put some boundaries up. We had to create some enclosures and compartmentalize, because some of these memories were too much, especially related to trauma. In childhood, trauma is often something that is hidden from our mind. And this is one of our coping mechanisms of survival. We're talking about something much stronger than memory. We're talking about instinct. We're talking about the actual physical cells of your body feeling safe with one individual and in danger with another. Maybe the connection with your mother is such a safe harbor because all of this childhood instinct built such a strong bond or such a strong imprint. Or on the reverse side, perhaps there was a lot of neglect or abuse, and so the concept of your mother, the hairs on the back of your arm are standing up by me just mentioning the word. Now, you don't remember exactly what happened, but you can sure feel what happened. Same is true for past lives. Just like a young child where we're not mentally able to handle these memories because of the intensity of these experiences, our past life would hold us back. That's why our own psyche has hidden these things from us. It's not a God that has decided we're going to wipe your memory clean. It's us. We had the choice, even if it's not a conscious choice, even if it's a coping mechanism. Just imagine the pain it could cause. If we had a full memory of a life, loved ones, and people that have gone to other places, other galaxies, other lives, other names, other experiences, and we're cut off from them, It would be so hard to move forward with life. And this is very similar to how some of us have experienced the deer in the headlights with a traumatic event where something happens, and from that point forward, for the next several years, we're at a stalemate. Our life is just not progressing because we are still trying to pick up the pieces and figure out what we're going to do. How do we handle this loss? How do we handle this pain? This pain just every day just seems like a weight around our neck. This is also another reason for why we might have chosen to mask these memories. Our past life memories are still within us. They are in our cells. They are in our reactions to each other. They are in our cravings and our desire. And most people just attribute this to personality variance. It's interesting that a lot of people that don't believe that there is a past life, they really have no explanation for how we were born from day one with such an incredible amount of personality. And if you're a mother or a father, you'll experience that firsthand of a being first placed in your hands with such a unique signature, a unique piece of music that they are. Their soul is unlike any other. And that curiosity of where have they been? What have they been doing? What have they experienced? What can they teach me? So if you're at the place where you feel you are ready to take on the challenge of remembering a past life memory and still being able to move forward with your life, and actually for it to be able to help you move forward with your life, then it will find its way to you. When this past life memory is no longer harmful, but it becomes helpful, it becomes an asset, it becomes a learning tool, a gift, then just like a trauma that suddenly comes up and it's something you'd forgotten, the brain and memory, it fills in the holes and it rewrites itself all the time. You might have experienced where you had something traumatic happen, but you forgot it. And then at the moment where you were actually ready to handle it, that memory started resurfacing. It was a touchstone that lit up all sorts of other memories that had been forgotten, or rather buried. And that is where your past life memory is. I talk about the South Node. Many people have the experience of resonance. Something just feels right in the fiber of your being. You couldn't exactly put into words before. As a very young child, we're dealing with such strong, guttural, almost animalistic emotions, but our mental capacity is not there yet. And so the mind tries to make sense in the best way that it can. And often this creates a fragmentation. And this is the same for what happens with our past life. A repeat of the same cycle and never exactly being able to find out that final answer that would take us out of the cycle. We have this question, and yet we're getting to the very last bit where we're going to find that nugget of wisdom, and then we reach our breaking point and we start over. And this happens time and time again. You'll notice in your own life, as you get older, you start creating the same neurological pathways. You start repeating practices over and over, even though your brain is just as malleable as it ever was. Why is that? Because it's safe. Because it's familiar. Because even if it doesn't feel good, anything is better than change, right? If you're at a point where you want to change your life, then delving into your past life is incredibly important. It will feel like you are stepping out into oblivion and jumping without a parachute. Now, if you're to ask me, is life so much better? I'm going to tell you yes. But is every day perfect? No, of course not. In some ways, the intensity of connecting your past, your present, your future, and all those fragmented selves, listening to all of those hidden parts of yourself, sometimes it's exhausting. Sometimes the intensity is extremely painful. If you're to ask a parent what it's like to have a child, they will tell you it's the greatest joy and the greatest sorrow. And the same is true for growing in wisdom throughout your life. All emotions are intensified. And yet through that intensity, through the embracing of changes, the strangest thing happens. More stability. The last thing you would expect. From what I'm explaining, it would probably lead the conscious mind to believe that this is some sort of almost bipolar evolution, where if the emotions are intensified on both sides, then we would create kind of a seesaw effect. But it's not the case. This intensity is at such a rapid pace, it's like being in the eye of the storm. To embrace your inner power and your inner connectivity to your past, present, future, as well as your connection to all of life, creates incredible emotional complexity, and yet serenity. In this way, it's not so much about going out and finding the truth, it's about unlocking the truth within yourself. I'm going to share a dream that I had with you, and this was at a very pivotal time in my life. I had a dream that started out like a nightmare. It was like a roller coaster. We were all strapped in harnesses, and it was full of people. And instead of being a roller coaster where you could see perspective and you saw this beautiful skyline or something gorgeous, you were just on a street, pavement, hot, sweaty. Everyone was screaming. It almost felt like a car crash that just wouldn't end. And what I didn't realize at the time was that even though as terrifying as it was, all I had to do was unclip the buckle and climb out of the harness and discover that I wasn't in an endless moment before death roller coaster. I was in this tower of discovery that had infinite levels. So I started climbing up. The next level was very similar to what you'd imagine in a church or some sort of kind of spiritual community. So everybody seemed to be generous and more caring. Of course, there were way fewer people, a lot less screaming. And then there was a staircase to the side, and I asked some people, what's up there? And they said, oh, well, we never go up there. We like it here. So I thought, well, let's try out the next floor. So I go up to the next floor, and the third floor is an area where it's like an Andy Warhol painting or an abstract. Everything just seemed a little distorted, or perhaps it was just that my mind couldn't comprehend it yet. I was still trying to figure it out like a puzzle, but it was an artistic world, and there were lots of questions, and it seemed like this was all gray area. Nothing was black and white anymore. Everything was a question that would lead to further questions, like a Alice in Wonderland. And the floor was actually pretty empty, not very many people there. And this concept continues over and over. More floors and more things to discover for those brave enough to continue on the journey. When you look at things in an eternal perspective, there is no destination. It's merely just a resting place. The concept of heaven or your job or being a millionaire, there is no end of the game. So looking at this eternal perspective, it focuses more on the journey and less about the goals and reaching some sort of security or some sense of I made it. And in some strange way, the more you learn about the past, the present, and the infinite possibilities, the more that living in the moment takes precedence. I'm not trying to get to heaven so that I can have X amount of virgins or whatever it is. I'm trying to live this moment so that I can see clearly from the highest perspective possible. So I can make the most out of pain that is necessary, and I can avoid cycles of pain that is unnecessary. You are connected to the source. You are the source. You don't need me or any other person to tell you what to do with your life. Of course, people can help, but ultimately everybody has the answers. Looking at the spectrum of all of your lives laid out, it becomes more important to see things through, to commit fully, to complete whatever spiritual journey you're on, so that you don't put that effort and go halfway and then have to redo it again. The concept of running away from our problems also becomes clearly impossible. If you literally or figuratively run away from your problems in this life, they will just begin exactly where you left off in the next life. Running away, it's a half measure, and it just leads you right back to where you started. Now, is there a way to remember past lives that have been forgotten? To unlock these memories? Yes, it's the same process as unlocking memories from your childhood, but a few things are required. The first thing is a conscious mind that is open to the truth behind these memories. Our mind likes to reshape to avoid pain. We like to outsmart wisdom. We like to lie to ourselves. Self-deception is a powerful thing. So the canvas of the mind has to be open to allow for this new reality. Secondly, we need a heart emotionally brave enough to handle these memories. When we start out each life, we are at our bravest, but our mind is at its weakest. And then as we head through life, the mind strengthens, but the bravery usually weakens. And the challenge is growing both of them simultaneously. And of course, the answer is spirit, mind, body, or heart, and spirit. To look at things through a spiritual perspective. And what does that mean? Well, it means to look at things with wisdom, to not take the easy fix. The addictive junkie within us wants something quick. We want something instant. We want a reward. We want quick congratulation. We don't want that thing that takes effort, that thing that takes a long time to grow. But that's exactly what wisdom is. The spiritual perspective also connects us to everyone, every living thing. It puts us in harmony with each other. It reminds the mind how small we are, and yet also the heart how beautiful we are. Memories from childhood or past lives usually come through catalysts or triggers. These triggers are images, words, or smells, or experiences, or people that give us a sort of deja vu feeling. Deja vu connects us to our timeline. It either means we are seeing into our future or we are seeing into our past. Another difficult thing about remembering past lives, and why some people remember them and others don't, perhaps you're a very spiritual person, but you don't remember your last past life, and this might be surprising since you have a lot of psychic abilities. Well, a lot of people had past lives that were from a different planet, different galaxy, different point in time. A reality so different that there are not as many catalysts or triggers that are similar enough in your life here, which makes it very difficult for the mind to be able to open up enough to see such a reality, almost like watching a fantasy film. So for the mind, in this treasure hunt, you'll know you're on the right track with deja vu experiences, possibly also dreams or your imagination. And for the emotional center, you know you're on the right track when something resonates. It's a vibration within the body that will take place. A concept or an experience, and something is parallel enough that even just hearing about it gives a vibration. And last but not least, I'll talk about the wild card. Remember that feelings, emotions, instincts, habits, comfort zones, these don't just come from nothing. Wherever you have one of these strong resonances that cannot be explained, you know that this is a byproduct of some experience. And this is the process of tracking backwards and unearthing your past lives. Love to hear everybody's comments about past life memory and experience, and come back for the next video.